Maryam is happily painting, her canvas alive with vibrant, dancing colors. A notification dings sharply. She glances at her phone, a screen displaying a flawless influencer artwork with millions of likes. Her smile instantly vanishes, replaced by insecurity. She looks back at her own painting, and its colors visibly drain away to dull gray in a second. The mirror beside her cracks loudly. The scene opens fully in Maryam's cozy, delightfully cluttered art studio. It is a sanctuary of raw creativity, filled with soft, natural light streaming through a large window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. The room is alive with the vibrant drama palette. Splashes of deep sapphire blues, warm ochre golds, rich terracotta reds, and earthy emerald greens are everywhere. Smudged on canvases stacked against walls, dried on palettes, coating brushes soaking in jars, and staining Maryam's paint-splattered oversized and comfy hijab. Maryam is in a state of pure flow, completely immersed in her work. Her movements are fluid, confident, and rhythmic as she applies bold brushstrokes to a large canvas, building layers of texture. Her face is relaxed, joyful, and intensely focused. There is paint on her cheek that she hasn't noticed. She is lost in the act of creation, connected to something greater than herself, tapping into the unique talent Allah has entrusted to her. In this sacred moment, there is absolutely no judgment, no comparison, no inner critic, just the pure, unfiltered joy of expression and the smell of oil paint and turpentine. The atmosphere is warm, inviting, and bursting with life. Maryam steps back slowly from her easel, wiping sweat and a smear of blue paint from her forehead with the back of her hand. She breathes a deep sigh of satisfaction as she takes in her finished piece. It's a beautiful, expressive, abstract landscape full of raw emotion and vibrant color, a piece that felt utterly authentic to create. A genuine, warm smile of pride spreads across her face. She feels a profound sense of accomplishment and gratitude for the ability to create. Wanting to share this moment of joy and connection, she impulsively picks up her smartphone from the cluttered table. She frames a photo of her painting, intending to post it on her small art account to share with friends. But as her thumb hovers just millimeters over the share button, a subtle, insidious hesitation creeps in. Her smile falters slightly, then disappears. The thought flashes intrusively through her mind. Is it actually good, though? It feels messy compared to what I see online. What if people think it's amateur? The seed of crippling doubt has been planted in that split second, a tiny crack in her confidence that is about to be ripped open by the digital world she is about to enter. Instead of posting her work immediately and stepping away, Maryam decides to just quickly check her feed for inspiration. She sinks into a worn, paint-stained armchair in the corner of her studio, the warm, embracing light from the window now replaced by the cold, harsh, blue glow of her phone screen illuminating her face. She begins to scroll. Her feed is instantly a deluge of curated perfection that feels like an assault on her senses. Other artists showing off hyper-realistic portraits that look like photographs, time-lapses of massive, flawless gallery murals completed in seconds, posts celebrating sold-out solo exhibitions, and perfectly aesthetic, minimalist studio spaces that look nothing like her own beloved, messy haven. With every swipe of her thumb, her posture slumps further into the chair, physically shrinking. The vibrant colors of her own studio surrounding her seem to dull and fade in her peripheral vision, as if the life is being sucked out of the room. The joy and pride she felt just moments ago evaporate completely, replaced by a growing, heavy knot of anxiety, envy, and inadequacy turning in her stomach. She is no longer seeing art. She is seeing a competition she feels she has already lost before even trying. After 20 minutes that feel like hours of mindlessly scrolling through other people's highlight reels, Maryam finally drops her phone face down onto the table with a heavy thud. She feels drained and heavy. She slowly stands up and turns back to her own easel to look at the painting she had just finished with so much pride only half an hour ago. But something fundamental has changed in her perception. She is no longer looking at it through her own eyes or heart. She is looking at it through the harsh, critical, comparative lens of social media perfectionism. The vibrant colors that seemed to dance before now look garish, muddy, and amateurish to her. The bold, expressive brushstrokes now seem messy, clumsy, and unskilled. The emotion she poured into it feels naive and embarrassing. A metaphorical gray filter has descended over her entire vision. Her art, which was a source of pure joy and connection to Allah, is now a source of deep shame. She feels small, untalented, and completely insignificant compared to the digital giants she just saw. The whisper of inadequacy turns into a shout in her mind. "You're a fraud. This is garbage. Why do you even bother trying?" A few agonizing days have passed since Maryam fell into the comparison trap, and her creative spirit has been paralyzed. She stands in the center of her studio again, facing a fresh, large, completely blank white canvas mounted on her easel. The room, which once felt like a warm sanctuary of limitless possibility, now feels cold, clinical, and intimidating. The natural light seems harsher, highlighting her hesitation and fear. She holds a brush loaded with bright sapphire blue paint, her hand hovering just inches from the canvas surface, trembling slightly. Yet she is physically unable to bring herself to make the first mark. Every time she tries to move her arm, the vivid mental images of the perfect, flawless, photorealistic artworks she saw online flash intrusively through her mind, paralyzing her will. Her own inner critic, now amplified tenfold by social media comparison, screams louder than her creative impulse. "Don't mess it up. It won't be as good as theirs. You're just going to ruin this expensive canvas. Everyone else is better than you." The blank whiteness stares back at her, transforming from an inviting space into a terrifying void of potential failure and judgment. The vibrant colors in the tubes around her seem to mock her inability to use them. After minutes of agonizing internal struggle, she lowers her hand slowly, defeated, unable to paint a single stroke, crushed by the suffocating weight of perceived inadequacy. Later that evening, the atmosphere in the studio has grown progressively darker and more oppressive, perfectly mirroring Maryam's deteriorating internal state. Driven by a deep, growing, and overwhelming sense of shame and embarrassment about her own work, which now seems so inferior to what she consumes online, Maryam begins to systematically hide her art. With heavy, hesitant movements, she takes down the beautiful abstract painting she was so proud of just days ago and turns it sharply to face the wall, physically unable to bear looking at it and feeling the sting of comparison. She opens a closet and pulls out heavy, dull gray drop cloths, draping them over stacks of other finished canvases that lean against the walls, literally burying her vibrant creations under layers of colorless fabric. It is a deeply symbolic act of self-erasure. She is dimming her own unique light because she has convinced herself it doesn't shine bright enough compared to others. As she hides each colorful piece, the studio physically darkens. The shadows deepen in the corners, swallowing the remaining light. The once colorful, chaotic, and joyful space now looks barren, muted, tomb-like, and lifeless, reflecting the current state of her creative soul. She sits in the middle of the darkened room on the floor, surrounded by the shrouded ghosts of her talent, feeling utterly alone, disconnected from her purpose, and ashamed of the gift Allah gave her. The emotional pressure continues to build inside Maryam until she feels physically suffocated in her own skin, her mind a whirlwind of self-doubt. Seeking some escape or clarity, she stands before a large, ornate vintage mirror with a gilded frame that leans against a wall in her studio. She looks up, expecting to see her own tired, sad reflection. Instead, she is confronted with a horrifying, hallucinatory vision. The mirror surface doesn't show the reality of Maryam in her paint-splattered clothes. It acts as a portal, showing a swirling, distorted, overwhelming collage of the perfect lives and faces she consumed online. She sees idealized, flawless versions of other Muslim women, artists with impeccably clean, sunlit studios, receiving prestigious awards, traveling to exotic locations for inspiration, all smiling effortlessly without a hint of struggle or doubt. It's a funhouse mirror of comparison, projecting her deepest insecurities back at her in high definition. These images seem larger than life, glowing with an artificial light, looming over her, whispering that this is what she should be, and cruelly reminding her of everything she feels she is not. She feels dizzy, overwhelmed, and completely erased by these unattainable, curated ideals. She reaches out tentatively to touch the cold glass, desperate to find her own true self amidst the noise of everyone else's highlights, but she cannot see herself anymore. In a moment of intense, unbearable emotional agony and psychic pain, Maryam closes her eyes tightly and screams silently inside her head, trying desperately to block out the false, accusing images bombarding her from the mirror. When she opens her eyes again with a gasp, determined to find her own face, her own true reflection finally attempts to push through the swirling montage in the mirror's surface. But as her image begins to solidify, the tension becomes too great. A loud, sickening, violent cracking sound fills the room. The exact same sound heard in the hook, but louder and more final. The mirror surface violently fractures. A massive, intricate spiderweb of cracks spreads instantly across the entire surface, splintering her reflection into dozens of disjointed, broken, jagged shards of glass. She sees her own face now, but it is fragmented, gray, distorted, and incomplete. The vibrant, creative Maryam is gone, replaced by this broken version defined only by her perceived lack and fractures. The shock of seeing herself so psychically damaged is too much to bear. Her knees give way, and she crumples to the wooden floor in front of the broken mirror, burying her face in her paint-stained hands, sobbing uncontrollably, her body shaking. It is absolute rock bottom. The devastating realization that in trying to measure up to illusions, she has completely shattered her own sense of self. Still sobbing uncontrollably on the floor of her darkened, gray-filtered studio, surrounded by the sharp shards of her broken confidence and the shattered mirror, Maryam's trembling hand brushes against a pile of old papers she knocked over in her distress. Through her tear-blurred vision, she notices the corner of an old, tattered sketchbook from her childhood peeking out from under a dropcloth. Sniffling, drawn by an instinct she doesn't understand, she reaches for it and opens the worn cover. The page falls open to a drawing she made when she was just 7 years old. It's a simple, messy, vibrant crayon drawing of a fantastical garden with a smiling sun and impossible flowers. Technically, it is imperfect, scribbled wildly outside the lines. But as she stares at it, a powerful memory washes over her. The pure, unadulterated joy and freedom she felt when she drew it. There was no audience, no Instagram, no likes, no thought of comparison to anyone else's garden. It was just her, the crayons, and the sheer delight of creating something out of nothing, a pure gift from Allah used for pure joy. The contrast between that innocent freedom and her current paralyzing, suffocating fear hits her harder than any criticism. In that moment of realization, deep within her chest, beneath layers of doubt, a tiny, warm, golden spark of divine light ignites, cutting through the cold internal grayness. Clutching the childhood sketchbook to her chest like a lifeline against the darkness, Maryam feels a desperate, burning need for truth to counter the suffocating lies of comparison that have overwhelmed her soul. She slowly sits up amidst the wreckage and reaches for her phone, which is still lying face down on the table where she abandoned it. This time, she doesn't open social media with its curated falsehoods. Instead, she opens a Quran app on her phone, seeking divine guidance. Her eyes fall almost immediately upon verses that remind her that Allah, in His infinite wisdom and deliberate design, has distributed His gifts, talents, and provisions uniquely among all His creation, that no two souls have the exact same path or purpose. She reads that envy and constantly looking at what others have been given is a trap of Shaitan, designed specifically to make her ungrateful for her own unique blessings and distracted from her own appointed path. The words hit her with the force of absolute, liberating truth. She realizes with blinding clarity, her value isn't a competition to be won against others. It's a unique assignment from her Creator to be fulfilled by her alone. The heavy gray filter that had distorted her entire vision begins to waver and thin visibly. The immense spiritual weight of ingratitude starts to physically lift from her shoulders as she begins to accept Allah's perfect wisdom in making her exactly who she is, with her own specific artistic voice. With renewed determination and clarity born from this spiritual awakening, Maryam stands up amidst the broken glass. She makes a decisive, symbolic physical change. She takes her phone, the portal to her pain and comparison, and deliberately turns it completely off. She walks across the room and places it inside a drawer, closing it firmly. silencing the noise of the outside world. She wipes the remaining tears from her paint-stained face, takes a deep, cleansing breath, and faces her easel again. With a newfound resolve, she grabs the heavy gray drop cloth covering the large, intimidating blank canvas and rips it off in one fluid motion, letting it pool on the floor. She picks up her palette, which had dried up with disuse, and squeezes out fresh, vibrant, thick blobs of paint, bright yellows, deep turquoise, rich magentas, fiery oranges, refusing to use muted tones. She closes her eyes for a moment, centers herself, and makes a sincere internal intention, Nia. O Allah, this gift of creativity is from you alone. I paint this now only for your pleasure and for the joy of my own soul, not for the applause or approval of any human being. Help me to be sincere. She opens her eyes, dips her largest brush generously into the bright orange paint, and with a shout of effort and release, makes the first bold, sweeping, defiant stroke across the white canvas, silencing the inner critic with decisive action. As Maryam continues to paint, pouring her energy onto the canvas, entering that cherished state of flow again, but this time grounded in deep sincerity and self-acceptance, a magical transformation begins to occur in the room. With every authentic, heartfelt, bold brushstroke she applies to the canvas, the oppressive gray filter that had dulled the entire studio begins to recede, physically, like a tide going out. The colors on her canvas seem to glow with an intense internal vibrancy, casting warm, dancing, colorful light onto her face, her clothes, and the surrounding walls. The deep shadows that had gathered in the studio corners evaporate, replaced by warm, golden natural light streaming in. Most miraculously, the large, shattered vintage mirror on the wall behind her begins to mend itself. The intricate spiderweb of cracks glows intensely with a soft, healing golden light, and slowly, magically, the glass seals itself shut, knitting back together into a seamless, perfectly whole surface, ready to reflect a healed reality. The studio is no longer a gray prison of doubt. It is once again a vibrant sanctuary of creation, alive with color and light. A few days later, the studio is bright, warm, and welcoming again, filled with the chaotic, joyful energy of creativity. Maryam stands back to look at her finished painting. It is not a photorealistic, technically flawless masterpiece like the ones that used to intimidate her online. Instead, it is expressive, bold, vibrant, perhaps a bit messy in places, with visible brush strokes and texture, but it is incredibly alive and deeply personal, a true, unfiltered reflection of her unique style and soul. It feels real. She smiles, a genuine, peaceful smile that reaches her eyes, reflecting deep inner satisfaction and gratitude. She turns slowly to face the large vintage mirror, now completely healed, whole, and gleaming. She looks at her reflection in the clear glass. She doesn't see a failed influencer, an inadequate artist, or someone who needs to be fixed. She sees Maryam, a servant of Allah, imperfect but unique, valuable, and gifted with her own specific way of seeing and translating the world. The reflection is clear, warm, and true. She accepts herself fully, without the distorting lens of comparison, at peace with the artist Allah created her to be. Maryam looks directly into the camera, her expression calm, wise, and gentle, radiant with hard-won self-acceptance and inner peace. The background is her warm, colorful studio filled with her unique art, a testament to her journey. We live in a world that constantly holds up mirrors of impossible perfection, telling us we are not enough, she says softly, her voice filled with conviction and empathy. It's so easy to get lost in reflecting others' lives that we completely forget who we were created to be. She pauses, connecting deeply with the viewer. But listen to me closely. Comparison is the thief of joy, and it is a lie that whispers God made a mistake when He created you. She smiles warmly, a light shining in her eyes. Your value is not measured by someone else's success, their follower count, or their highlight reel. Your gift is unique to you for a divine reason. Don't dim your own light just because it shines differently than theirs. Break the mirror of comparison. Embrace your own unique color and paint the world with the light Allah gave only you to share.